What's up, this is Naked Eli, the mostly unclothed gamer, here with a Halo 5 Guardians review focusing on the campaign. I did my best to make this video spoiler free, so you'll still get the full experience when you play through the game. My goal with this review is to give you insight into the new gameplay mechanics, as well as a sense of the narrative of the game, and share my experiences and thoughts on the campaign, which I've been playing for about a week and a half now thanks to my press copy. So let's dig into this game. Halo 5 has 15 new campaign missions that carry on the story of Master Chief. It introduces us to his closest friends on Blue Team, Fred, Linda, and Kelly, and introduces us to a new Spartan team, Osiris, who has Jameson Locke as its leader. Now, fans might be disappointed to hear that there are only 3 missions where you play as Blue Team, which means only 3 missions as the Master Chief. But I will admit that those missions are substantially longer, more fleshed out, and more emotionally charged than the numerous Locke missions. Overall, the campaign had a feeling to, let's say, Halo 2, where we split the narrative between main characters. Now, the missions showcase some of the best level design that the series has ever seen. We have massive landscapes littered with secret passages, breakable walls, and Easter eggs. I talked to a level designer at E3 who said that they actually designed the game with speedrunning in mind, so they offer different routes through many of the larger rooms. Now, there are 13 skulls and 117 pieces of intel that you can hunt for and explore and look around for that add to the story of the game and give you new difficulty when you want to play through the campaign, which adds to the replayability. One problem I had though with exploring the maps is that we have invisible barriers everywhere. So like if there's a mountain, I just want to go climb it, let me climb it. If it looks like I should be able to reach up and clamber on top of a building, let me go and clamber up on top of that building. I felt all too often that I was hindered by these invisible barriers around the map that were blocking me from accessing things that it looked like I should have been able to reach. Now, the campaign was made for 4 players, and you'll definitely see this when battling enemies who have a weak spot on their back, including the main nemesis of the campaign, who will probably surprise you, and I'm not going to be revealing who it is in this interview. Now, the teammate revive feature is brand spanking new. This is helpful to keep your teammates close to you, for example, in case you die when you're just peeking out of cover. You can also direct your teammates to target a particular enemy or to move to a location as a distraction so you can run on by. You can kill your teammates and then revive them yourself, and this will give you a temporary overshield. You can also look at a weapon on the ground or sitting in a storage crate, and you press up on the D-pad to make them pick up that weapon. So this is especially useful if you have, let's say, 1 rocket left, and you drop it, hand it off to your teammate, and now they get infinite rockets. Your teammates now create Spartan chatter, and this essentially replaces Cortana as the voice in your head, people talking to you and telling you where to go and what to do throughout the game. NPC dialogue sounds just as good as ever as you'd expect from a Halo game. I was actually surprised in a good way by the length and depth of some of the conversations I had with the non-playable characters. Now, if you press down on the D-pad, there's a cool new feature to see where you're going, where you have to head, what the goal is, which button to press, who to talk to. It's a really helpful feature so that you basically never get lost on what you have to do in the campaign. Visually, the game is stunning. It looks beautiful in 60 FPS and 1080p, of course, but I will admit that at times it felt too glossy, kind of like we saw in Halo 4 with that over shiny effect, especially on the Forerunner missions. Now, gameplay mechanics are super crisp and smooth, and they're some of my favorite aspects of Halo 5. Running around and shooting stuff is super fun. We have unlimited sprint, slide, clamber, thruster pack, a smart scope hover mode, shoulder charge, and ground pound, all as a built-in kit. These Spartan abilities actually make sense too in the context of the Halo narrative, giving Spartans super speed and strength so you actually feel like an enhanced super soldier. It also makes trick jumping and speedrunning really, really fun and leads to some of the best combat I've experienced in the series. Now, Halo overall seems to have gone back to its roots in this game with 30 seconds of fun. It just had a really nice flow to it. 1 minute you're killing the new Forerunner soldier enemies, the next you're battling beefed up super hunters, and then you fight all sorts of battles on foot, in vehicles, against weak enemies, to full-on boss battle scenes. It has a really nice pacing to it. Now, to discuss the enemy classes, we still have the Covenant and the Forerunners. There's no Flood in Halo 5. Forerunner enemies include Crawlers, Watchers, and Knights, as we saw in the past, but also a new mid-class enemy called a Soldier. I personally was not a fan of the Soldiers. I found them extremely frustrating to fight because of their infinite teleport ability with no cooldown. I also still think that the Forerunner class is relatively boring. They don't have much personality, unlike the Covenant, who, they have the grunts cracking jokes, and you can hear the elites with their banter. The Forerunners really never, to me, feel like people or things that I should care about killing. It just feels like shooting at robots. My favorite enemies, though, in Halo 5 from each class are the Knights and Hunters. So the cool thing about Knights now is that they're like these powerful mini bosses, and they have specific areas where you target. Otherwise, they just soak up huge amounts of damage. And Hunters in Halo 5 are now sort of redefined as full-on boss battles. They kill you insanely fast with new fuel rod mechanics, and it actually is one of my favorite moments in the game when you first run into them. You kill the first Hunter, and then the second Hunter oftentimes will berserk and go sort of Super Saiyan, dishing out double damage, and they really become a truly terrifying enemy. So the first time you guys take these guys on Legendary difficulty, I think you'll know what I mean. Now, I still hate Jackals in this game that can actually punch you, which is hilarious and ridiculous, but it actually makes sense. Now, all the classic Halo weapons are back with an ability to scope and aim down sights. Some people are not a fan of the ADS. I personally don't mind it, except on weapons where the reticle is blocked, such as we see in the Carbine. Now, we also have new weapons like the Hydra Launcher and the Plasma Caster, which aren't quite as powerful as power weapons, but they're not as weak as non-power weapons. I'm not really a fan of them, and you'll see oftentimes that people will just walk right on by these weapons because we haven't really figured out as a community the best way of using them yet. Particularly, I find in high-octane situations, I'd rather just have my headshot weapon and, a rocket launcher or some other super weapon, and I'd only use the Hydra if I didn't have something better, more powerful, more explosive. Now, there are also, this is kind of cool, Legendary Edition versions of some weapons, like a beefed up scatter shot. On the first mission, you can find it. It's called the Loathsome Thing. And then I've also found the Legendary Sniper Rifle. Every Legendary weapon has custom art detail, which is pretty cool. So overall, I think they did a really good job with the weapons and the weapon balancing. Every single weapon feels more powerful and has a purpose. Even the suppressor now shreds Forerunner shields. It has a lock-on feature, and it could actually be really useful when trying to kill things. As for the vehicle designs, we have the redesigned Sword Ghost, which looks really slick in my opinion, and the redesigned Sword Wraith. So when you play through the game, you'll know what that means, that they are of the Sword faction. And then we also have a brand spanking new vehicle called the Phaeton, which has a blink ability to actually move quickly in a lateral or forward or backward direction. But it doesn't have a boost otherwise, so it can be relatively slow. The Banshee, I'm super happy, feels much stronger than in Halo 4 and Halo 3, brings me back to the Halo Reach days. You can do many of the same tricks with your flips, including the down flip to accelerate your Banshee bombs. So I think if you can get a Banshee in multiplayer, you're going to be very satisfied with that experience. One problem I still have with the Warthog is that in Halo 4 I thought that it looked and sounded like an RC car, and I still think it's basically the same. The Scorpion tank controls in Halo 5 are also super wonky. You'll probably find that it's hard to turn around in tight spots, as I've seen happen to myself and other players who I've watched. One thing I'm happy about is that the rocket launcher actually locks onto vehicles again. So if you have the rocket launcher, you know that that is now a really strong anti-vehicle weapon. The audio in the game is super crisp, the sound effects really pack a punch, and overall the soundtrack is just gorgeous. You'll definitely hear some nod to the original Halo theme, and there's just powerful, moody melodies all throughout the game. something that surprised me about Halo 5 was that the cutscenes actually run in real time. They're not CGI, and this blew my mind, because what this means is that the game that you're playing is as if they just took a camera and were watching character models actually play. I think you'll especially notice this on Mission 3 called Glassed, when you look out of the elevator and it looks identical to the cutscene before it. Now, the co-op campaign is accessible if you don't have any friends but you want to play with some people online. There's an online matchmaking with a drop in or out feature, and so you can basically just hop in and out of missions as you please. Halo 5 clearly uses many of the visual and mechanical pieces from the Halo 4 engine. So basically, the one issue with this is they actually had to create 60 frames per second by dropping split screen. So this is a huge deal for people who love playing with their girlfriends or boyfriends, or just friends sitting on the same TV on a couch, or throwing a LAN party. You will not be able to do that with Halo 5, unfortunately. I think it makes sense though that now usually gamers are just in their rooms connected to the world online, and by making the whole campaign 60 frames per second, it really does improve the fidelity of the single player experience. And according to Frank O'Connor and several others at 343, the game simply requires 60 frames per second to function, and split screen would have dropped the frames too much, caused the game to crash, and so it's just something they had to drop. So I think fans of split screen, which has always been in Halo, might be a little disappointed with that drop. Now, some cool features. There's a save last checkpoint feature where you can practice a part of a mission or a trick over and over and over, or this allows you to leave a mission, go play another mission with a friend, and then you can come back later to that same spot in your campaign. One thing that really bummed me out about the campaign is no restart button. I know I'm pretty particular on this, but this is a huge bummer for speedrunners, because I now have to quit out of the mission, wait for the loading, go back into the mission, and then wait to start the mission all over again. On top of this, the cutscenes are either unskippable or semi-skippable. And so that means that I have to watch a portion of them before I can actually skip through the cutscenes. So this is really bad for speedrunners who just want to play through the game quickly. And it's also bad for replayability, I think, for people who just want to go through the gameplay and don't want to watch huge portions of the cutscenes or entire cutscenes all over again. Another feature that is missing is campaign theater. So we haven't really seen this since Halo 3, Halo Reach. We did not have campaign theater in Halo 4, but I was kind of hoping that they'd bring it back so we could showcase awesome things that happen in campaign, including speedruns. But alas, no campaign theater. Now, to get more into the story itself, I personally was not completely satisfied on my first playthrough. I felt that the story wasn't aligned very well with the marketing, which pits Locke against the Master Chief and depicts him as a traitor. They also had a trailer from Halo 5 several years ago, and the scene in that video never really came to fruition. Just many questions I was hoping that would be answered in the narrative were simply left unanswered. So even though overall I very much enjoyed continuing the story, learning more about the characters, learning more about the universe, I also just simply wanted more. Maybe that's just me being a Halo superfan. Additionally, I felt that while suspension of disbelief is important for enjoying fantasy narrative, Halo 5 stories seem to require like a huge amount of suspension of disbelief. Without getting into any particulars, I felt that there were several times similar to the insane cutscene from Halo 2, where Master Chief flies a bomb through space into a Covenant ship, which is, you all know this scene if you're a Halo fan. It was absolutely nuts, and you're like, really? Really? And I found myself questioning several scenes in Halo 5 like that. Just key scenes and situations that would have dramatically shifted the narrative. The whole time I'm just thinking that like someone could have said, this is how Halo 5 should have ended, here and here and here and here. Yeah, for me personally, that just took me out of the campaign experience and really reduced immersiveness. As for playing as Spartan Locke for 12 out of the 15 missions, I wasn't too invested in his character. I thought there were several chances where they could have given him more meaningful replies to meaningful questions about hunting the Master Chief and other objectives, and instead he just sort of became this drone, this sort of one-sided, one-minded character. I also wish that they dove more into the characters of Blue Team and provided more background on each of them in dialogue or cutscenes, especially because if you've read the books, you know that these characters are like family basically to the Master Chief, and we didn't really get that feeling just through Halo 5. And then as a small point, there were not even any Halos involved in this game. So that makes me, I think it's funny to call a game Halo and not even have a single experience on a Halo ring. And without saying much about the ending, I do not think many fans will be happy with it. I definitely wish that the story had pushed further, and I think it makes sense overall why they did what they did, given that we're going to have more Halo games in the future to carry the narrative. But it's sort of a cliffhanger ending. I don't want to give it away, but just know that it's not going to be fully wrapped up, the story that you're pursuing, by the end of Halo 5. But overall, so I went through a bunch of positives, a bunch of negatives, tried to describe everything to the best of my ability. Overall, I think the campaign is a really fun experience. I just want to warn you that it will leave you wanting more. As a hardcore Halo fan, I always look forward to playing the campaign and learning more about the story, but it looks like we'll have to wait another 2 to 3 years to see how this story arc pans out. If I had to put a number on it, which everybody wants in a review, even though I think these content and subject of the material is more important, let's just say that I'd put an 8 out of 10 on it. Right, whatever that number means to you. I think it's definitely worth a playthrough if you're a Halo fan or love AAA shooters, but I don't think that this is a story experience that's going to sit aside the likes of Portal and Half-Life 2 in the history books. So that's it for my Halo 5 Guardians campaign review. Hope you guys got some perspective and enjoyed the review overall. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and share with your friends if they are interested in learning more about Halo 5's campaign and whether or not they should pick it up. Alright, that's pretty much it for this video. I'll catch you next in the multiplayer review edition. Peace.